At 2:41 in the afternoon, the destroyer Mason slid into the narrowest stretch of the Strait of Hormuz under a sky so clear you could count the wave crests from the bridge wing. No fog to hide in, no cloud cover, nothing but flat blue water and the long grey shape of the oil tanker Pacific Endeavour trailing a kilometre behind. 21 miles wide at this pinch point, this stretch of water carried nearly a third of the planet's seaborne oil, and Iran had spent years insisting it belonged to them alone. Captain Sarah Mitchell had briefed her crew an hour earlier, and she hadn't sugarcoated it. Elevated Iranian activity. Daylight transit, meaning the other side would see every move the ship made. Expect harassment, she told them, maybe worse. What she didn't say, because she didn't fully know yet, was that intelligence chatter had been picking up signs of something bigger than harassment for days. The first sign came at 12:15, when coastal radar stations began painting Mason with targeting sweeps, calm and methodical, visible to anyone watching from shore. An hour and a half later, a dozen fast attack boats shot out of Bandar Abbas at full throttle. Revolutionary Guard crews at the helm, missiles slung under their hulls, running straight for the strait in plain view of every satellite overhead. Not long after, 3 missile corvettes left port behind them, heavier ships with heavier weapons, closing toward an intercept line that American reconnaissance aircraft were already tracking in real time. By 2:35, Central Command had pieced the picture together and flashed it to Mitchell directly. 6 shore-based missile batteries were live, 12 boats were inbound, 3 corvettes were converging, and a full Iranian strike was likely imminent. She was told to hold position, defend the tanker, and that a carrier strike group was already spinning up support. She ordered general quarters. Every sailor went to battle stations, knowing this wasn't an exercise. Here's what Tehran didn't know as it set its trap. This wasn't just one exposed destroyer sailing into a kill box. 3 American submarines were shadowing beneath the surface, unseen and unannounced. The carrier Dwight D. Eisenhower sat 60 miles off, its deck loaded with 48 fighters, ready to launch on short notice. A pair of B-1 bombers had been circling at 40,000 feet for hours, quietly building a target list of every missile battery on the coast. And the tanker itself, the one Iran fully intended to seize as a trophy, was carrying a dozen marine reconnaissance operators hidden below deck, waiting. At 2:52, the trap sprang. 8 anti-ship missiles leapt off the coastline, supersonic and skimming the water, contrails bending toward Mason. The attack boats opened up next, another 24 smaller missiles in the air, and then the 3 corvettes fired their own volley, 6 more. 38 missiles converging on a single American warship in what would become the largest anti-ship missile salvo aimed at a US Navy vessel since the Second World War. Mason's Aegis system didn't hesitate. Interceptor missiles streaked upward in rapid succession, and the close-in defense guns opened fire in bursts too fast for the ear to separate, shredding incoming missiles into fireballs a few hundred meters off the hull. Most of the 38 never got close. 2 did. 1 struck forward, 1 aft, and Mason answered the hits with fire and black smoke rolling off her deck. Sailors down, damage control teams already moving. And still the ship kept fighting, her deck guns swinging toward the incoming boats, and her tomahawks leaving the launch cells seconds later, aimed straight back at the batteries that had just fired on her. Within the minute, her 127mm gun found the lead attack boat and turned it into flying wreckage. Then a second, then a third, while the surviving 9 boats and the closing corvettes kept pressing in. Mitchell got on the radio to Central Command with a report that didn't need embellishing. Hit twice, fires burning, enemy vessels and shore batteries still engaged, request support. The answer came back almost before she finished speaking. Help was 60 seconds out. It arrived as 8 Super Hornets screaming in at 600 knots, pilots taking in the scene in an instant, a burning destroyer still slugging it out against a swarm of small boats under a clean afternoon sky. They didn't wait. 16 Harpoon missiles left the jets bound for the 3 corvettes, and within moments all 3 had been struck simultaneously, breaking apart and going under in full view of everyone watching. The jets then rolled onto the attack boats with cannon fire, working methodically until 9 boats became 3, then none. At the same time, Mason's own Tomahawks reached the coast and took out all 6 missile batteries in a tight sequence of detonations, command posts, and radar arrays going up together. 2 minutes later, the B-1 bombers, having circled patiently since the fight began, dropped 48 precision-guided bombs across every Revolutionary Guard naval facility within 100 kilometers. Barracks, depots, communications towers, the entire operational backbone of Iran's naval presence in the strait, erased inside 4 minutes. Then the submarines surfaced. Toledo, Helena, and Alexandria broke the surface in broad daylight after weeks of silent shadowing, and their Tomahawks went straight for the Revolutionary Guard Navy's headquarters building in Bandar Abbas, the command post that had ordered the ambush in the first place. It came down in a series of explosions that sent a smoke column visible from 60 kilometers away. The admiral who had planned the attack didn't survive it. More jets arrived from Eisenhower, along with electronic warfare aircraft that blinded what remained of Iran's radar network, and the mop-up began. Patrol boats in port, fuel depots, maintenance yards, all going up in flames, documented from orbit. Then, almost as an afterthought amid the wreckage, the Pacific Endeavour came alive. 12 Marines emerged from a hidden compartment, boarded 2 rigid hull boats, and hit the beach at an Iranian coastal observation post, the facility that had coordinated the entire ambush. Doors breached, rooms cleared, 8 personnel captured, computers seized, and the Marines were back at sea within minutes. Extraction complete before anyone on shore could organize a response. Mason fired her last Tomahawks at the Regional Military Command Complex in Bandar Abbas, and by 3:45 it was gone. 47 minutes after the first missile left the coast, the fighting was over. 15 Iranian vessels destroyed, 6 missile batteries eliminated, a naval headquarters in ruins, 57 facilities burned, roughly 320 Iranian personnel killed. Mason damaged but afloat, her crew alive, the tanker untouched, the Marines home with a haul of captured intelligence. Iranian state media tried to spin it within hours, claiming their forces had driven off an American aggressor. Satellite photos told a different story: sunken hulls on the sea floor, smoking craters where the batteries had stood, a flattened headquarters building, all of it time-stamped in daylight for anyone who cared to look. There was no ambiguity to argue with. Mason limped to Bahrain for repairs and was back in service within 6 weeks, every sailor aboard having survived. Mitchell received the Navy Cross. The 12 Marines who'd raided the observation post each got a Bronze Star. The intelligence they recovered confirmed Iran had been planning the ambush for 3 weeks, convinced they could sink a destroyer, grab the tanker, and force Washington to the table. Instead, they lost 15 major vessels and roughly 320 of their own people in a single afternoon, and the carrier group 60 miles out never even had to close the distance. The destroyer, the jets already in range, and 3 submarines that had been quietly waiting for weeks were enough. There's a version of this story where a lone destroyer in the world's tightest choke point looks like easy prey, and a version where that same ship turns out to be the visible tip of something much larger sitting just out of sight. Iran bet on the first version. It's worth wondering how many nations have made that same bet, watching what looks like a single exposed target and never asking what else might be quietly shadowing it beneath the surface, or circling far overhead where nobody thinks to look. In the weeks after, oil prices barely twitched, because markets had already priced in what the battle proved. The strait would stay open no matter what threats came out of Tehran. Gulf neighbors took notice too: expanded cooperation with the Fifth Fleet, wider access to naval facilities, requests for integrated air defense training. The lesson Iran walked away with was simple and expensive at the same time. Firing on an American warship in daylight doesn't close a strait. It just guarantees the whole world watches your navy disappear in less than an hour.